Just when you think that 2026 could not get any stranger or more mysterious, in the last 48 hours, I would say the disclosure community, the truth community, the ancient astronaut theory community lost what I would consider to be one of the pillars of the industry. David Wilcock. David Wilcock has been pronounced gone from this earth in the last 48 hours, but it's leading a lot of people to question several things about that official narrative. Number one, the story. There's a lot of stuff going on. Also, if you're not familiar with who David Wilcock is, let me back you up a little bit. David Wilcock was made famous on a show on the History Channel called The Ancient Astronaut Theory. He also has several books. He's huge in the disclosure community and documentaries. He was on, another show, Ancient Aliens. But there's another show that he was on as well. Over the years, he has become one of the more recognizable figures on that show. He is a white dude with, kind of curly, blondish hair, small stature. But he was a giant in the community. But towards the end of his career, David Wilcock started talking about things, dangerous things, right? I posted up a video right before I came online on my Instagram, my TikTok, and my X account. However, it will get my YouTube channel taken down if I post it up. It's just a clip of him speaking for about a minute. Highly recommend you hit the link tree in the bio, go back to the Ancient Enigma Files, hit the link tree there, go to Instagram, type in the Ancient Enigma Files, or go to TikTok and type in EnigmaCast, and you'll watch it over there. Towards the end of David Wilcock's career, he got really big into the Cabal, and he got really big into pointing out that there is no governments, there is no left or right, there is no us versus them. There's sheep and there's overlords, slaves and masters. And he was pointing out a lot of things, and he dug into a lot of things. In fact, that video clip that I spoke on and posted up is probably 5, 6, 7 years old, but it makes perfect sense for right now. Perfect sense for right now. Talking about how specifically these people, evil demon worshiping people who are above the law, cannibalistic, practice black magic, practice, witchcraft, all this other stuff, sacrifice, and how that they have to have our permission to do it, and how they speak with symbolism when they talk. And so it's leading a lot of people to believe that because of what's going on right now, with even with the distraction taking place, we still know the Island Boy emails are never going away. Someone's going to answer for that, right? And it's exactly what he's talking about. So it's led some people to believe that he was taken out because of that. Other people are believing that he just simply snapped and unalived himself. Other people are believing that it has to do with the 11 scientists plus counting that are just disappearing left and right about this UFO, UAP disclosure thing. Some people, even a fringe group of people, are saying that David did not take his own life. He actually is in WITSEC right now, again, via Telegram. That's so dumb. That's people talking on Telegram, right? And I just don't, again, I can't wrap my mind around that Telegram is the hub of, the truth going around the world. Not discrediting it. But either way, he was a serious voice. Either way, he was talking about serious things, almost on the Julian Assange level, right? That's how in danger this guy was at certain times. But he's gone now, and he will be missed. But however, I think that too many people have decided to, not let this go anymore and not let things slide anymore. Say what you want about Trump. Say what you want about 2026. Say what you want about America, what's going on in the UK, Iran, Israel, all that stuff. Say what you want about it. Everybody has their own opinions, but there's only one firm, hard deck conclusion. Things will never go back to the way they were before. Period. We are never resetting back to 1993 or 85 or whatever it is where Trump keeps talking about those years. We're never going back to that. The United States of America is at an all-time low when in belief, people trusting in the systems. No one trusts the systems anymore, period. Not the system, the systems. No one trusts it. And the fact that people have woken up to that, and it's not just the everyday, it's the age gap closes. Before, the only people that used to buy into the system are the boomers, they would say, people 70 and over. That's starting to rapidly change as well. People under 30 at first, then people under 40, then people under 50, and then last week it was people under 60, right? By the end of this month, or probably end of May or whatever, it'll be people under 70. And then after that, it's over. Because once the people 70 and over start dialing into this and seeing what things are, it's going to get even more bumpy. But it doesn't matter. Even if the large majority of them don't, a portion of them already have. But even if they don't, it doesn't matter, because the 60, the 30, the 60 to 70, 80% underneath, when they age up, it'll never happen, right? It'll never happen, right? And so tonight we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about David Wilcock's life. We're going to talk about the 11 scientists that got taken out. We're going to talk about a disaster going on right now in Brantley County, Georgia. That's 100% somebody else's fault, and people reporting these mysterious homes that are involved. Before we get into that, let me introduce myself. My name is Joseph. This is the Enigma Daily, right? And welcome to my YouTube channel. This is my second channel where I sit down and I talk about current events going on, and I just go in there cold. I read about 2 paragraphs worth of information, and I just speak my mind on it when I go with it. If you're interested in our deep dives where we go into it, head back to the homepage. You'll see a channel called The Ancient Enigma Files. Click on that, go over to that page, subscribe. My show over there is called EnigmaCast. Dig in. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about the Fatima prophecy, because I just wrapped up a 3-part series on Chris Bledsoe, Baba Vanga, and tomorrow is going to be the closure on it, talking about the Fatima files, right? So, welcome aboard. Let's get into this. You can find both my shows on every major streaming platform on the planet. Spotify, Spreaker, Amazon, iTunes, YouTube, you got it. But if you want to watch the video for this show, it's only available on YouTube. All right, let me take the chat. Robert's checking in over there. What's up, Robert? A diehard. Robert, we got to send you a shirt, Robert. For real, man. 2 or 3 shirts. Jay's not with me tonight. He has a pre-standing engagement, and I have several guests lined up, but tonight I had too much going on to dial people in, so you will start seeing guests show up on the show, but instead of it just be me and them, it'll be just extra boxes popping up all around it. Yes, Robert, David Wilcock has passed away. Again, they're trying to say that it's a self-inflicted wound, but that is a lot of controversy on that going into it. So rest in peace. He actually was I give you guys a background. I look a little bit of history about myself. Oh, so Steve and I are talking right now. We're picking out the next topic. Steve's life is freeing up, and now with this new microphone I got over here with its, handy dandy purple cable. I don't know if you can see the purple cable on it, right? With my new microphone over here, I can take advantage of the reason why Steve hasn't been on the show for a while, haven't had a guest on the show for a while, is that I have a recording software that was rejecting my microphone. It says my microphone was too, basic. So I had to upgrade into this XLR cable. I had to upgrade my audio equipment to professional grade audio equipment in order for me to use it, right? Now that I've got that all dialed in, Jay and I dialed in the settings yesterday on all of my platforms. So I've got tons and tons of guests lined up. And so just be ready for me to roll them out, right? So Steve will be here with us shortly. So anyways, the guys tell you something. I was the guy, man. I grew up in Upper East Tennessee, and my nanny and papa used to take me to church all the time in Johnson City, right? And when I would go to church very regularly with them, I actually, believe it or not, I enjoyed the Wednesday night services in the South back in the day. I don't know if they do this anymore. You would go on Sunday mornings, Sunday evenings, and Wednesday nights, right? So I would go on Wednesday nights and Sunday mornings with my grandparents, but I would never have to go on Sunday nights. They would, do that thing themselves, right? But when I actually enjoyed the Wednesday night services better. I wish I could find a church that had midweek services instead of Sunday services. I would go to the Wednesday evening services. I don't know why, I just preferred it, right? But when I was in church, I always felt different. I don't know why. I always felt different. I always felt, like kind of out of place. I used to get in trouble. I was very literal. I used to get caught praying with my eyes open, and my nanny would ask me, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm looking for the Holy Ghost." Like that's just literally how I was, right? They used to have a laugh out of it, but that's what I was doing, right? I was very literal, right? And it wasn't until much later in my life that I kind of started clicking and things started fitting in, right? And if you know anything about my shows, I talk about all this stuff back here on my wall, right? And something was always missing. And it turned out what was missing for me was the missing puzzle in the book, which was turned out to be the book of Enoch. The book of Enoch is supposed to be the second book in our Bible, right after the book of Genesis, right? The book of Genesis didn't make any sense to me. No one told me about that a Nephilim was a giant. No one ever told me that, right? I didn't know that, right? So just growing up. But when I started getting older, I started coming across these guys like, Stephan Giorgio and David Wilcock and these guys. And then it started pulling on these strings and going down these rabbit holes. And I'm like, okay, yeah, this totally makes sense, right? And I know that the Holy Spirit had a lot to do with that as well, because, the Holy Spirit will give you discernment, right? It will give you, it'll make things kind of make sense, right? But he was a pillar on that, right? And so seeing him being taken out or whatever the story is on that, at the timing of things right now is very strange, right? It's just very strange to me, right? But the world is waking up. The world is waking up, and the world is never, ever going to go back to the way it was. It's not. It's just not going to do it. It can't go back. Once this Pandora's box has been opened and all these things are coming out, it's just not ever going to happen. Even to the point now where even no matter what the distraction is, the war, the fake war, Trump, we've been at war and at peace with Iran 27 times. Look this up. I'm not looking this up. Trump has declared war and ceasefire 27 times. And somebody in his inner circle is making hundreds of millions and billions of dollars betting on these stocks. It's his kids. His kids are doing it. He made $5 billion in his first 14 months, right? So everyone sees that now. And even no matter how bad something gets or how things go in a certain direction, right? It's not ever going to go back to normal, right? The next election is useless. Everyone knows that. J.D. Vance look, I voted for Trump 3 times, right? Had high hopes for him, right? Kamala Harris was not an option. She was not an option. She's satanic. She's a witch. She makes fun of Jesus. And then it turns out, so does Trump. And again, I don't know the logic behind these people's methods, right? I saw Trump's Easter post. I thought it was disgusting. I saw Trump's post pretending that he had his face superimposed on Jesus. I thought that was disgusting. I even talked to a couple people and I'm like, you need to be careful with this. The Bible specifically states God will not be mocked. And matter of fact, Nebuchadnezzar, which God used, I'm actually reading the book of Ezekiel right now. And Nebuchadnezzar was the tool that God used to go down and scatter Israel again, because literally they were doing everything. And you go look this up. I'm not looking it up, man. I'm not making this up. They were doing everything that was going on in those emails back then. Same stuff. Sexual immorality, murder, child sacrifice, cannibalism, idolatry, everything, right? And he sends Nebuchadnezzar down there and he, wears them out, scatters them, right? But even Nebuchadnezzar got so powerful and so big that he thought that, in the Bible, God refers to Nebuchadnezzar as my son. You can look it up, right? And he gets so much hubris that literally God strikes him down and makes him, like crazy for 6 years or something like that, right? And when I see Trump mocking Jesus, I'm just like, okay, you shouldn't do that, right? And again, I don't know why he's doing it. I don't know why. I think, I have said this before, that Trump converted to Judaism in 2017 or 2019, the same time Ivanka did. He is big with his father was what they believed was a crypto Jew, was a Jew who pretends to be something else. His uncle, you can go look his uncle up as well, all this stuff. It's not even hard to find, really. You can go look it up, right? And I know Jews reject the divinity of Jesus Christ. They're the only religion that openly mocks him. Muslims don't mock Jesus. People don't know that. We've been told that Muslims are your enemy. They revere Jesus. They actually think Jesus is the Son of God and that he didn't die on the cross and that he's going to come back as the Mahdi, and he will be the, that when he comes back the second time, he'll tell the world that Islam is the true religion, right? And to us, that's the Antichrist. So, I'll get into more of that tomorrow. They don't mock Jesus. They don't. Matter of fact, Buddhists don't mock. No other religion mocks Jesus except Jews. They're the only ones that do it. They openly do it. They spit on Christians in Jerusalem. Go look it up, right? And so to watch somebody else mock Jesus, they're either woefully ignorant or they're doing it on purpose. One is forgivable, one is not, right? So you just don't really know what Trump is doing, and no one really does. But it's going to come all back into play, exactly what I'm talking about with what David Wilcock was talking about, is that this cabal and their hubris and their, they fear no repercussions is the word I'm actually looking for. They'll get theirs one day. God will not be mocked. God will come back around. And the hardest part, there's two things I find very difficult about being a Christian. Most people think it's forgiveness. That's not really a problem for me, man. And because I seek forgiveness, right? And the Bible says if you don't give forgiveness, you won't get it. And I want to be forgiven. I've done some things. I wasn't a monster or a criminal or anything like that, right? But there was times, huge stretches in my life, especially when I was a lot younger, I had zero empathy for anybody. I'm the wrong guy to talk to about a hard life, right? That's not the way to be. It's not the way to be. God makes people strong to protect the weak. And I think that's starting to come back around, right? I used to look at weak as like, you're just weak. You deserve what you get, right? I would never bully anybody or I would never do anything, but I would never walk 3 steps to help somebody. I've changed drastically in my life. But I give forgiveness because I had things done to me as well, man. But, forgiveness, I don't think that's the hard part of being a Christian for me. I know some people struggle with it. The hard part of being a Christian for me is praying for other people, right? Praying for that, right? Like when Daniel was taken to Babylon and he was, raised up to be one of the high people in Nebuchadnezzar's court, God told him, pray for him, specifically pray for him, right? And so we're supposed to pray for people. We're supposed to pray for our world leaders. We're supposed to pray. We're supposed to pray that Trump comes to Jesus. We're supposed to pray, that the world changes, right? That's hard for me. I'm doing it, but I don't know how effective I am at it because I'm saying it with my mouth, but I'm not quite sure that my heart is in it 100%, right? I do want America to, I want America to be the light of the world and to bring other countries out of darkness. I want the technology that we've suppressed, free energy. I want that out. I want that released. I want the oil industry to go away, right? I want the pharmaceutical companies to go away. They're just evil, right? They're pure evil, right? And again, insurance companies are evil as can be. They take all the money you give them every month and they invest it in the stock market. People don't know that. The reasons why they fight you so hard to pay out your insurance claims for auto insurance, health insurance, or whatever is because that money is invested in stocks. It is. If you take the time and read the disclosures on, the stuff you sign, that money is just not sitting there in like, a 0.2% savings account. It's invested in I think it's in the S&P 500. So every time they pay you out, that money has to come out, right? They're making billions and billions and billions of dollars, right, off you. And I want that to go away. I want the emails released. I want it. I want justice for these kids, man. I want justice for kids. I do pray for people who don't have anybody praying for them. I pray for children who don't have anybody praying for them. And I pray also at the same time that a Delta Force guy kicks down the door and takes out the whole entire room they're in. I don't know if I should be doing that. But that's what it is. And the second part of me that has struggling to be a Christian is I struggle with stupid people, right? And I struggle to not call them stupid people, right? I struggle with that, right? The hardest part, again, I grew up in Upper East Tennessee. And the South, where I grew up, I've been to the Northeast and the West Coast and all over the planet, right? I've been in the military. I've met some of the smartest people I've ever met in my life in the military. And I met some of the dumbest trogs I've ever met in my life. I don't even know how they're still alive. I don't. But when I talk to people in the South, for some reason, I would say from Tennessee to North Carolina down all the way to Louisiana, Oklahoma, all the way down, right, to Florida. If you've ever met somebody that is so stupid that will say something to you and they believe it so much that they have you thinking that you're stupid, right? I'm like, what? Really? And they have you second guessing something that you think is completely right. And I run into so many people that do that. And it's always, not always, but a lot of the times it's scripture related. Scripture related, right? I talk about a Bible verse. They come at me like I said something completely wrong. And then they say it with such confidence that I'm like, am I wrong? And I have to go and read and look at it. And I'm like, no, I'm wrong. This guy's an idiot, right? And then I have to go and, in a polite way say, hey, no, man, you're reading that wrong. Try it like this, right? You have to ignore the insults, right? Christians are rude, right? They're very rude. They're extremely rude when it comes to certain scenarios. They're very brave online and in certain cases in Walmart, right? But they're mostly brave online, right? And that's what I find is difficult, right? And that's what David Wilcock was talking about a lot in his lectures was that, that the universe is benevolent and the universe is God, is Jesus. It's God's creation, right? And that, we're supposed to do X, Y, and Z, right? So anyways, I'm going to get off my soapbox on that, man. But let me know in the comments if you guys think, man, let me know what you think, man, about the same thing. If you have what you struggle with in there. Let me read the chat here. When you get your power, you think you're unstoppable. It's like a drug. You just don't want, yeah, exactly, Robert, exactly. Trump is riding so high right now on power that I can't even imagine what's going through his mind. I can't even imagine, right? What's going through his mind. But he is. And so he should learn God will not be mocked. And you know what? He has a limit to these things, right? So I've told it before. I don't think Trump will finish his term. I really don't. I don't think he'll be here past November, if I'm being honest. That's just myself, right? Anyways, that's a story for another show. We'll probably talk about that on Friday, actually. But David Wilcock situation leads a lot of people to connect the dots on 11 other people that have been, strange disappearances or strange deaths over the last, they say a couple months, but it's actually been a couple years, right? I got these 11 names I want to throw out there for you real quick, right? William Neal McCassell, we've talked about him. He was a major general at the aerospace background. He's missing. Nick Pope, former UK Minister of Defense, UFO desk. I didn't even know that was a thing. He's deceased. Eric von Daniken, ancient astronaut theorist, reported deceased in 2026, right? I didn't know that, actually. Win Free, author associated with Wilcock, right? He deceased shortly before Wilcock reports, right? That's another strange one as well. Mark McCandish, aerospace illustrator tied to UFO propulsion, deceased. Mark McCandlish, aerospace illustrator. Then you got Phil Schneider, government engineer, whistleblower. He's gone. Carla Turner, UFO abduction researcher, she's gone. Jim Morris, journalist and UFO researcher, he's gone. Stanton Friedman, nuclear physicist, UFO researcher, he's gone. John Mack, Harvard psychiatrist studying abduction cases, he's gone. And Max Spears, he was an alternative, theory researcher, he's gone. So some strange things are happening around the world right now, and it's hard to put your finger on it, man, that people that seem to be involved with UAPs, UFOs, ancient astronaut theories, disclosures, they are disappearing. They're, passing away under extremely suspicious circumstances. In fact, all 12 of these people, none of them have had a clean death. There's always something in there. And a lot of them, a portion of them are technically not reported as being, dead or, no longer with us, right? They're just considered missing, right? But it's strange. It's strange. And Trump is, again, he's tooting his horn, talking about how, disclosure is imminent. I think it was one of the congressmen that's pushing it. She says that they're about to release 45 cases of, UAP, UFO stuff, and it's going to be some weird stuff in there. So we'll see how that goes in there. But it's definitely odd. And again, I don't believe in coincidences. I just don't believe in them, right? Very strange, very difficult, hard to explain occurrences are taking place. But that's where he's at. Now, sliding on to this, right? Moving over to our next topic right here. And again, I'll as more information comes up, I'll put that out. I'll put that out there as we come along, right? But right now, something strange is going on in Brantley County, Georgia. Actually, something strange going on in the South, period. Georgia, Florida, Alabama, and parts of Mississippi are experiencing a record drought that's never been experienced before. If you've never lived in these areas before, Georgia, southern part of Alabama, Florida, South Carolina, Mississippi, Louisiana, it's very humid, a lot of humidity down here, right? But it hasn't been like that for the last month. It's supposed to be April going into May. This is supposed to be the spring where it rains a lot and you get a lot of humidity. But it hasn't been raining down here for some reason. And because of that, Georgia is very, very dry. And so right now in Brantley County, there is a massive wildfire taking place, right? And the crews are working hard to contain it. But it has some, what they're saying is they're surprised at how quickly the fire is spreading. Now, I know pine needles and pine sap are extremely flammable, right? And I can only imagine what they're like, during droughts, right? But the wind has also been kicking up down here, something crazy for a couple of days now, right? And a lot of people are trying to figure out the reason why. But however, the last time I drove through Georgia, I have not seen any place that I've ever driven through that had as many spider webs in the sky as that place. Just line after line after line after line, right? And we know that the geoengineering, they admit it's real, and supposedly they admit it's for our own good, right? And when you look at the current situations, how you have certain groups of people, again, what David was talking about, these Cabal people who think that they know better than everything, and that they know that, we're bad for the earth, and that they're playing God and they're, messing around, with the weather. That's exactly what they're doing, right? And this is how normally it backfires, right? They'll create, the weather to keep it colder, but because of that, it'll cause a drought. And because of that, it will cause a large fire. And because of that, more carbon will go up into the air and increase the temperature of the atmosphere. These people they're not smart. They have no common sense. They are not smart. They have some intelligence in certain fields on how to stop it raining, but they don't ever think past 3 or 4 or 5 steps down the road. And that's exactly what's going on. So what you're going to see happen is that you're going to see fires in Georgia, and then because of the smoke that goes up into the air, into the clouds, you're going to see massive, massive, massive amounts of rain that's going to come down and hit the ground where, there's no root system there anymore because, of the fires, and you're going to have massive floods, mud floods. That's the next couple steps, right? Same way. So yeah. And again, Trump was supposed to put a stop to this. He didn't. RFK Jr. was supposed to put a stop to this. Rumor has it that Trump put the brakes on him. The Make America Healthy Again stopped. And it's the exact same. I've talked about this several times, right? They want to keep you sick. They want to keep you stupid. And that's what, not because some of that, all of it is actually greed, right? That's the way it keeps you going to the pharmaceuticals, right? And this is what I'm talking about when I talk about the arrogance of these people, right? The arrogance that you think that you can control the weather is just massively freaking beyond, what a mortal man should actually think he would be able to do, right? But they do it. They have these meetings, right? And they look at if populations of people die off, then hey, that's a bonus because they were just breeders and feeders. They were, eating everything up. And so when you go and look at this going on in Georgia, I pray for the people up in Georgia. But again, it doesn't seem to be slowing down. I know some people send me articles and I read their articles, right? And I talk to them and they're always like, no, this is Trump's master plan. He's playing the part of a fool. But then why is Georgia burning? Right? Why is that a thing? Right? So it's a lot to take in. It's a lot to digest. And when I go through these articles and I read these articles and they're, don't get me wrong, the articles are well written. They're very articulate, right? And they're laying out their positive cases, right? And again, there's a passage in the Bible about where it talks about their money, their wealth will be taken away from them and given to, the people they've stole it from. I don't know how that plays into things right now, but sure. But when you look at the overall picture, when you step back and you look what's going on with the weather manipulation and the scientists going missing and the rhetoric that's being talked about on, social media platforms, the whole Iran situation, right, that's going into it. When you sit back and you look at it, right, and you have to ask yourself, and I ask myself this often, how does that benefit the average American? I don't know. I don't see it. I went to 2 stores today. I went to Walmart and Publix, spent $100 and brought back, 9 things, right? So fortunately for me, I'm blessed, but I'm thinking to myself, like, man, like, how was a family of 5, doing it? That's a serious question. How is 3 kids, a husband and a wife, how are they putting this together, right? And so, yeah, I just don't know and again, I've been poor. And if you talk to anybody that's ever been poor and is no longer poor, they'll tell you that the number one psychological side effect of being poor is uncertainty, right? It feels like a sword on the back of your neck, right? The uncertainty of poverty is what I think drives a lot of people to be very stressful, right? Some of these people don't know how they're going to get their groceries next week. They don't, right? And again, some people, I've never understood this myself. Some people struggle. Then I see some people who don't do anything and they have all these benefits, right? I know down in Florida that they've cut off, you can't use EBT to buy Coca-Colas and chips anymore. And then Doritos down here went from $11 to $3 right after that, right? Right after that. Every place I go, Coca-Cola and Pepsi products are buy 2, take 1 free, and they're half price, right? Even Coca-Cola's CEO came out and said, yeah, we have to adjust for the times. Our prices are too expensive, right? Again, Coca-Cola's terrible for you, right? It'll give you diabetes, but it's terrible for you. But who was paying $12, $13, $14 for a case of Cokes, man? But yeah, that was the price. And then again, I haven't read this article. So much is happening in the world right now. It turns out that the Southern Poverty Law Center just got caught funneling money to racist groups Literally, they were creating the problem so they could stay in business. Look it up. I'm not making this up. I might actually talk about this tomorrow, right? And again, it's the same way when you have these activists. If there's no drama, there's no need for them, right? And again, fun fact about the United States of America, if you take, we're supposed to be ranked one of the most deadliest countries on the planet. We're actually not. You take away New York City, Baltimore, Washington, D.C., Richmond, Virginia, Chicago, and St. Louis, Missouri. You take those away, we're like the third most. We drop down to like 3 from the bottom, like 197th dangerous place. We become like one of the top 6 or 7 safest places on the planet, right? So all of our statistics for murder are driven out of 6 or 7 cities, period. And they know that. But they don't ever go into those cities and do anything about it. They don't. They did in DC, but no other city have they done that, right? None, right? They could fix these problems, but they won't. Because if you fix the problem, then the groups that get billions of dollars from the government will cease to exist. You don't need BLM anymore. That was a joke to begin with. You don't need these places anymore, right? You don't need them. You ever wonder why no one's massive protesting right now? It's because no one's paying them to do it. No one's going from Seattle to, Atlanta to protest on their own dime, right? These NGOs, these nonprofit organizations are the ones that usually foot the bill, and they go down there and they do that type of stuff. And so these people have the power to fix the problem. And again, when you look at the founding fathers of our country, right? A lot of people don't know it. You know a few names. I don't remember the exact amount of people that signed the Declaration of Independence. If you know, throw it in the comments, maybe 70 guys. Only 10 of them lived. Like 60 of those guys that signed that, they lost everything, including their lives, right? We know about George Washington and all these other guys, right? But I think Franklin was in France the whole time. I think Jefferson was in England the whole time, right? They weren't even in the U.S., right? Adams was here, Washington was here, and all this other stuff, right? So those guys, in order to break free, they put their lives on the line to do it. No politician here seems like he has the audacity to do that. None. They'll push to a certain limit and they'll stop, right? They're all about enriching themselves and enriching their families, no matter who's in there or who's not. I mean, Joe Biden was in there, and his kid was running an art Ponzi scheme where he was using face paint on canvases, and people were giving him $80,000, a picture. That's just bribery. That's all it is. That's just legal bribery. As a matter of fact, organized crime since the 1800s has used art for money laundering. They'll sell a piece of art for like, $18 million. They don't care about that. That person just needed a way to get $18 million to somebody else in a legal way. Oh, I sold a painting, $18 million. It's all a scam. The whole system is completely disgusting. It is, right? And so yesterday, Jay was talking about it needs to be some. I'm of the opinion, right? And we need to reboot this hard drive, reboot the whole thing. Just click it down. Japan is actually put itself on a track to, in 1 or 2 years, to stabilize itself. You can't immigrate to Japan right now, period. They stopped it. Just like I said, the United States of America needs right now. The U.S. needs 4, maybe even 10 years of no immigration, period. None. No student visas, no H-1B visas. You want to come here to visit? Sure. But you have to leave, right? None of that. We need to stop. Everything needs to be reset and taken down. And again, in Japan, if you want to go look at it, when they catch somebody illegal, they call it sushi, right? They literally wrap them up like a mummy for some reason. I don't know why. It's hilarious, but they wrap them up, right? But yeah, that's what we need. And they could do it, but they won't do it. And the reason why they won't do it is because how they look upon us and look down upon us, right? And how they think that, we're just cattle to them, right? And unfortunately, correct me if I'm wrong, prove me if I'm wrong, Trump's the same way, man. Same way. When he used to give that speech about the snake during his rallies when he was running, he was talking about himself. I'm convinced of that. He was talking about himself, right? But again, you had no option. At the time, he looked like a solid choice at the time, right? You can't predict, how things was going to go with it. I believe he's in those emails. That's me. I believe it. I believe he's in there. I don't know what he's doing in there. I don't know what level he was doing in there, but I believe he was in there. I do also believe that they didn't want him in any of their circles. Matter of fact, Trump built Mar-a-Lago because, you can look this up, because across the street there was another, fairly rich and famous popular country club. They wouldn't let him join. They rejected him. And they laughed about him trying to get in there. He's always been a joke to these people. He really has. And I'm not just trashing on him, right? Trump has always been a joke to these people, right? And that's why he built Mar-a-Lago right across the street. And so I believe that he's finally he feels that these people are somewhat respecting him and accepting him. And that's why he's going full tilt with his antics that he's doing, right? That's just my opinion, right? Several people still think he can do no wrong. Several people think that this is a master plan and that I'm too stupid to, catch on. I'm the first to tell you, naval intelligence, I was a spook for 9 years, TSSCI clearance. If this is a plan, then this is the master plan PSYOP ever created, period, right? If this is a plan, right? We're supposed to have our 250th year anniversary this year for the United States of America. And America is in complete chaos right now, right? So if I'm wrong, I'll be the first to do a whole show telling you how wrong I am, and I'll eat crow on that. But I don't think I'm wrong. But anyways, but I am an optimist. You guys know that. I always make lemonade. The glass is always half full. I'll always share my snacks with you. Always, right? So I do think Jesus wins in the end. Everybody knows that. If you don't, you will. Every knee will bow. Every tongue will confess Christ is King. We're not anywhere near the end of the book of Revelations. Totally not. Trump is not the Antichrist. Be serious. Jared Kushner is not the Antichrist. Be serious. Netanyahu, not the Antichrist. Be serious, right? We're not even close to that. I actually think that I think a big comeback is coming around, right? I really do. I think a big bounce back is about to happen, right? And I think we'll see it this year. I think we'll see the starts of it this year. I really do. I really do. And so I'm sticking to that, and I refuse to live my life with my head in a storm cloud looking at my feet when I walk. And again, I know too many Americans. I know the American spirit. I know the average American spirit. I definitely know the South. This whole how you're going to go around and, supposedly just cut off Christians' heads because they won't, bow to like the beast. You've never been to the South, bro. That ain't happening. Man, that is not happening, right? Our women carry pistols in their purses down here. You're not chopping off anybody's head down here, right? It's not going to happen, right? There's not an army on the planet that could conquer the Appalachians. It's not doing it. And people say, why do you say that, Joe? Because I know those people and I live in Florida. And if you go up there, guess what? I'm going up there too. I'll meet you there. It ain't happening. Americans, man, we are cousins. We like to fight each other. But if somebody else tries to make, trouble, then you got to fight us all. That's period. That's it. It's the Waffle House mentality, man. And so I believe that we're going to come through this. I actually do. I actually believe we're going to come through it. J.D. Vance will never be president. Peter Thiel will never have any power. Palantir will go. Trump is not going to finish, right? He's not. And I say that, and you're like, well, if Trump doesn't finish, how is J.D. Vance going to never be president? You'll see. I don't know, but we'll see, right? I just don't see it happening. And so I'm not doom and gloom, and I don't want anybody to watch my shows and be doom and gloom, right? I don't sell doom and gloom. I sell positivity over here, right? This whole thing in the Middle East is exposed. It'll never go back. Israel's not our greatest ally. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows that. A lot of people don't have the freedom to speak that way because they're worried about what people will think. And again, people ask me that question, aren't you worried about what people think? I want people to think I'm honest. I want people to think that I have integrity, that I'm a good man, and that when I give you my word, I keep my word. If I say I'm going to be somewhere, I'll be there on time. If I say I'm going to do something, I'll do something. So yeah, I care about my reputation as a man, but I don't care about people's opinion on me about how I live my life or how I live my beliefs, right? I'm a Christian, chin high, sorry, unapologetic. As a matter of fact, I'll even take it a step far. People get on me sometimes on this, but I'm actually a crusader Christian. Like if this was back in the day, I'd be on a boat taking back the Holy Land type of Christian. I don't think that people who mock Jesus should get passes. That's just myself, right? And I know I'm wrong for that, but I'm honest about it, right? I'm very militant. I believe in justice. I don't believe in 12 years of appeals and 15 years on, 30 years or 45 years waiting for a trial to come to. I believe in justice, right? I saw this article the other day. 4, boys assaulted this girl and she died. They did a lot of bad things to her. And they're debating on whether or not to try him as an adult. I don't hesitate on stuff like that, right? Again, it's heartbreaking. I don't want to judge anybody. But at the same time, what about the girl? What about her family? No one talks about that kid who got stabbed at the track meet down there in Texas. No one talks about that guy anymore. Or the white girl that got stabbed on the bus in, I think it was, Charlotte or whatever. They don't talk about it anymore. All we talk about is Iran and all this other stuff. But I also believe, and again, this is where I have to pause myself. I also believe that God can take wicked people and redeem their lives. So that's where I struggle, right? I'm not gonna lie, that's where I struggle, right? And I'm trying hard not to judge as much as people as I normally. I don't want to be that guy to judge people, right? I don't want to judge, right? Because if I judge them, I'll be judged. And so I do think the world is a better place with Jesus in it, man. And I do think people are a better group of people with Jesus in them, right? I really do. And again, no one's ever had a near-death experience and said they came back and met Buddha. It's never happened. In fact, it's the exact opposite. If you want some good videos to watch, go on YouTube and type in Buddhist Buddhist near-death experience, and they always meet Jesus, and they come back and convert to Judaism, or come back and they become Christians, right? Jews don't believe in heaven or hell. They don't believe in Satan. They think Satan is a temptation spirit. They don't believe there's anything after their life. So Muslims, they believe in jinns. I don't think they believe in Satan as well. They have like jinn. He's a demon or something like that. Buddhists don't believe in any of that stuff, right? Christians believe in heaven and hell, good and evil. And because of that, it seems to, again, there's terrible people pretending to be Christians, right? Again, I'm not defending, you never know somebody's true heart, right? But it gives them a moral compass of right versus wrong, right? And even if you don't believe in Jesus, but you follow his principles, right? The 7 commandments that he gives us in the New Testament, man. Don't murder anybody. Don't be adulterous. Don't covet your neighbor's stuff. Don't steal, right? Just those basic things, right? Forgive. Love your neighbor like you love yourself. Love God above everything, right? So, yeah. I think everything's going to be okay. I really do. People say that Christianity's dead. I don't see it. I see the exact opposite. I see a revival. I see younger generations, kids in their, teens, in their early 20s, on TikTok, preaching and reading the Bible and doing all this good stuff, right? So despite this whole, fiduciary that's going on around the world, it's going to be all right. I believe it. I pray for that every day. I pray for peace every day. I really do. And that leads me to my last and final topic tonight we're talking about, right? It has to do with the Bible. Is that this came out, I don't know how long this has been going on, but across multiple regions, including parts of the US and Europe, there is a spike in what they call low-frequency humming sounds, right? People claim they can hear, feel, or even experience as pressure. The phenomenon is often referred to as the hum. Dun, dun, dun. The hum, right? It's reported for decades, in Taos, New Mexico being the most famous case, but it's trending again as people are posting videos, personal accounts, online descriptions, same experience. Now, what makes this interesting isn't the sound, it's the inconsistency, right? Not everyone can hear it. And matter of fact, some describe it as mechanical, others describe it as atmospheric, some says it feels internal, like it's vibrating through their entire body. And that takes me back to the trumpets in the Bible. People have sent me videos, and I posted them up, about lightning storms in actually Georgia. It was actually Georgia or Alabama. It was Georgia or Alabama. You can hear a trumpet blow. Like literally, you can hear it, right? You can hear a trumpet blow in the middle of this massive thunderstorm, right? I've also seen people have sent me videos of like a loud humming noise out of Australia. And also there's other parts of where they've sent it to me of like these loud bell sounds that they could hear, right? This big bang. The best way I can describe it, right? It's like a not like a sharp bell, like just a bang sound, right? More like a gong or something, right? And this phenomenon is it's not new. It's been around for a while, right? It's been around for a hot minute. And what makes me interesting when you look into it is that also, if you look out anywhere into Skinwalker Ranch, they talk about anytime they disturb the earth in Skinwalker Ranch, they can feel, or they feel something almost like a machine operating underground, right? Fascinating. And then when you connect the dots here to the recent, earlier this year or later in last year, I can't remember the exact time, they were talking about these deep underground military bases that connect all across the planet. And it connects everywhere from the US down to New Zealand, how they have these railways down there and all that stuff, right? And again, when you got these congressmen talking about these civilizations that living in our oceans, and the Bible talking about people living under the earth, and how people on the earth, which is us, that we don't know what's going on underneath our feet. We don't know. We don't know what's going on underneath our feet. And we do know that, again, I thought this was hilarious, but 3 or 4 days ago, scientists, who study, the beginnings of our universe have came out with a breaking, segment saying that it appears that our universe was created via frequency. And then if you go read the book of Genesis, it says how God spoke everything into existence. We're the only things that God made with his hands. Everything else, Jesus spoke into existence, right? You can go look it up. But when he made us, he came down and made us with his hands, right? We're the only thing that he put together. Everything else was spoken into existence, right? And so this humming sound and this vibration sounds, to me, just adds to the mystery. And I like a good mystery, right? It just adds to the mystery about what people talk about and how we think we know some things, but really in 2026, we don't really know a lot. I think they know a lot, but think that everything we've been taught is just basically a deception or a lie, right? And again, I've said this many times. I really believe this. I don't believe that we're living the way that we're supposed to be living. You're not supposed to work yourself to death from 18 to, 65 or 70 or however it is they're raising the retirement rate or whatever. 40, 60 hours a week with one vacation a year or something like that. I don't think that's not how we're supposed to be in tune with our environment around us. And they could stop that. They could. Free energy is a thing. I actually think a lot of these scientists going missing are free energy. The reason why they won't release these UAPs is because those are, there's no, the fuel they use is basically Earth's energy, right? And once you had free energy, your whole entire life the whole entire planet would be different with free energy, right? The whole thing would be different, right? For everybody. And I think they know these things, right? And I don't know what to make of these hums. I don't know what to make of these, scenarios that are going on. But I do believe in something that I'm It's controversial. It's hard for me to articulate. But when you look up in the sky, it talks, angels are often referred to as stars, right? Stars from heaven fallen, right? When Satan came down, his tail swept a third of the stars from heaven, right? And 200, watchers left their post and came down to earth and manifested as, angels. And if you look at the number of dead planets and moons that we have in our galaxy here, there's like about 200 of them, right? I think these stars are actually alive. I think that's some of the forms of these actual angels, right? So when a star falls, he leaves its heavenly post and comes down, assumes something else. The Bible talks about, especially in Revelations, he looks into the sun. There's an angel. He sees an angel in the sun. And today I was reading, I need to look more into this. I didn't know this, but evidently in outer space, you can't see the sun. It's only visible on Earth, and you can't see stars when you're in outer space as well. I didn't know that. And again, I have no way of looking at that, right? But the only way you can see the light of stars and the light of the sun is on Earth. And so I think that these heavenly bodies are actually angelic beings. So I actually think that the Earth is probably alive. I think the Earth is actually probably some type of being, right? A source, Mother Earth, whatever you want to call it, man. I'm not trying to, braid my hair and, smoke any peace pipes or anything like that, but call it what you want. I think it's something, right? I don't think oil, and people are starting to buy into this as well. I don't think oil is a limited resource. I think oil is something that's produced by the earth, right? I don't think it's dinosaur blood for sure or anything like that, or just dinosaurs broken down. But it's just another mystery to add to the wall, guys. It's just another conversation that needs to be had. It's just another, thing that they probably have known for 200 years or 300 years, and that we're just now trying to figure out ourselves as we move forward, right? But it's fascinating to me. And again, I don't even have an intelligent thought that I can give to what I think these hums are, but I know they're real. I don't think it's definitely not tectonic plates shifting. That does happen, but creating vibrations and creating, humming sounds, no. They actually create orbs of light when they press into each other, but never any type of hum or any type of sound like that. But I could be wrong. I say it all the time, man. If you go to my other channel, the Ancient Enigma Files, man, and you look at EnigmaCast, you'll hear a lot. I don't know. But what these hums are, I don't know. What Trump really is not looking good. Do we lose? Absolutely not. We win. God wins. Jesus wins. Period. Psalm 91, you should go read it. 1,000 will die at your right, the left hand, and 10,000 at your right. You only witness with your eyes the destruction of the enemy. Period. We're not going to be touched, man. Firm believer on that. So anyways, guys, coming up on time. That's our show for today, man. Those are the three things that I found interesting to look at. I want to say rest in peace to David. He was a pillar in the community that I'm involved in. And you know what? I actually hope that whatever happened, I hope it was peaceful for him in the end on that. And you guys, if this is your first time finding me, please do consider giving me a subscribe, give me a thumbs up. This is my second YouTube channel. Again, these are our opinion-based shows where we sit down, we talk about the current events of the day. If you want a video, you have to go to YouTube, but we are on every single streaming major platform on the planet. Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon, you name it. Type in the Enigma Daily. And you can listen to me on the way to work. If you're interested in my deep dives, go back to the main page of this YouTube channel. You'll see the Ancient Enigma Files as a highlighted channel. Click on that. Go over there, give us a subscribe, and give us a follow. Tomorrow, I'm going to be talking about Fatima and the three prophecies that were given to those three children over there. And I'm wrapping that all up in a nice little bow and finishing up my prophecy series on that channel. And yeah, it'll be good. So tomorrow, quick change of plan. This won't affect anybody on the streaming platforms, but we will be going live tomorrow around 3 o'clock because I have to do a 9 o'clock show on EnigmaCast. So guys, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for being patient. Robert, thanks for hanging out with me, bro. And I will see you guys tomorrow, and you guys enjoy the rest of your evening. And remember, God wins in the end, and we are out.
Subscribe now and turn on notifications to join us on this extraordinary journey into the unknown.